Today I wanted to do a video review of one of my most used watches, and it's not because I wear this watch very often, because I really don't. It's because I use this watch at night to check the time. I have a large clock, digital clock that we use in our bedroom, but it's a lot easier sometimes for me just to grab this to check the time. And one of the main reasons I use this watch to check the time at night is because it has really nice illumination. So when you push the light here, it lights the whole face up, which is really easy to see the time. But what this watch is, this is the Casio PRG-270-1 ProTrek. And these are marketed as a G-Shock alternative, kind of more for outdoor use, hiking, backpacking, that type of role. And that's really, what I bought this watch for. And that's usually the main time I wear it is when I'm out camping or hiking, and it performs wonderfully with that. So with this thing, what you get is it has what Casio calls their triple sensor, and you get the compass feature, you get barometer and temperature, as well as altitude. So that's what this big sensor here on the left side of the watch is. That's actually the sensor there. So those are the features that it's, the reason why it's used in outdoor, because those features are very useful when you're camping and hiking and backpacking. Some of the specs with this watch: it's going to have a 54 millimeter case, so it's a large, very large watch. It's the largest watch by far that I have in my collection. Your lug to lug here is 52 millimeters. The case thickness is just over 14 millimeters, so it's also it's a very thick watch too. So it sits high on your wrist, and it'll have 100 meter water resistance. It has a rechargeable internal battery, so it's charged, by solar light, which is great. They call it tough solar. The weight is fairly light for the size. This is a big watch, and it weighs 2.4 ounces or 68 grams if you want it in grams. Some of the other cool features it has the ability to keep track of 31 time zones, so that's pretty cool. It has 4 alarms and a snooze alarm, which I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I'll go through some of the features here, and then I'll go over some of the positives and negatives. With this watch, so let me get the focus here. You've got your mode button here, and that's what you'll use to cycle through the different features. So I'm back here on the normal time mode. You'll see it displays the date at the top there, and you can push, I believe, this button here. Yes, and you see it switch to 8/17, which is today's date, August 17th. And if you keep pushing it, this tells you it's Thursday the 17th. If we go, and I have it on 24-hour, you can also switch it to 12-hour if you wanted to run in 12-hour. From this timekeeping mode right here, your normal mode, if you push the compass button, of course, it's going to bring up the compass feature. So you see it right there going into effect, and as you rotate it, it will reflect the change in your compass. And this one here, I push the button, it'll last for, I believe, 60 seconds, so that's pretty cool. You don't have to keep pushing the button. Then your next is going to be your barometer. So your barometer, I have it set for the pressure rating. I think it's Pascal is the unit. So it shows here it's 1,115 on the barometer. And then if you look down there at the bottom, it'll show the temperature. So it shows it at 79.6. Now I will say one thing about the temperature rating is it is not very accurate unless you have it off your wrist. When it's on your wrist, it's going to pick up your body temperature, body heat, and the temperature will be higher than it really is. So you can see I'm holding the watch now. It's close to my hand. It just went up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. If you leave it sitting down, it'll slowly drop over time. And it's fairly accurate. If you take it off and set it down in the shade, or the sun, it'll give you fairly accurate readings. So we'll go next to your altitude. So you'll see here, it's displaying here in my hometown at 310 to 315 feet, so it's somewhere in between there, I guess. And that is very accurate. I checked this morning on Google Earth, and it showed at my location it was 314 feet. Okay, now we'll continue. Click your mode button, it brings you right back to the time. So if we push mode again, now we've gone to sunrise setting here. So you'll see there is an arrow. I don't know if it'll show up here or not. You can see right there on the left, sunrise pointing up, so it's saying at 5:01 this morning should have been the sunrise, and then the sunset is going to start at 18:48. Which is 6:48 p.m. Another thing too, always here down at the bottom, you'll see on the dial right there on the bezel, it says battery, and you can read, you can see a little H that displays right there, and that tells you that the battery has high charge. If it's medium, it'll say M, and low, it'll say low. I've never had it drop below H. We'll continue on through the different settings here. This is a recording mode, which I never use, but I guess you could record different settings that you put in there, like timers or stopwatch settings. Speaking of stopwatch, that's the next one here. So it's your traditional stopwatch. You control it with these two. That's your time zones. So you can cycle them with these two buttons here. So if we click it, actually, I'm sorry, that is your timer, I believe. Yeah, that's a countdown. I'm sorry. So that's counting down from 13 minutes. We'll pause it. We'll continue on. Here's your alarms. So you can cycle through different ones. So there's alarm 4, alarm 3, alarm 2. And if you use this one, it'll go back the other way. So alarm 3, 4, so on and so on. Next is your world time. So here's your world time. So it's set to London right now, and we can cycle through. I guess that's Madrid, Paris, Rome, Berlin, so on and so on. You can go back the other way, which is cool. So you don't have to cycle through all 31 time zones. So back to London. And we're back to the time mode. Let's see if there's any other things I want to discuss on this feature-wise. Well, one thing I will say, if you want to adjust anything, you just hold down, like for instance on the time, I'm on the time here. If you hold down this button which says adjust, you see it says hold to set, and you just continue holding and it brings it up, and you can adjust all your settings. That works pretty much with any of the modes. So let me back out of that. Okay, back to time. Some of the positives with this thing that I really like, I like it has the version 3 sensor with this model, which is great. It's that version 3 is faster and more accurate than the old version 2, of course. So that's a bonus. I love that it's solar powered. I don't have to worry about changing out the battery. Really great feature with that. The battery life on this is incredible. Casio claims that it'll last 9 months on a full charge. And it has a power saving mode too. So if you stick it in your drawer somewhere, like in your closet, and don't use it, it's going to power down to a low power mode. And basically, that's probably where they're getting the 9 months battery life on that. And it'll won't even need any power. It'll just go into a low power mode. I like that it's fairly accurate on the your different like your barometer, altitude, and all that. It's fairly accurate. You do have to calibrate it. So before you go somewhere, you want to definitely calibrate it with some known numbers. Once you do that, it's actually pretty dang accurate. Like I mentioned before, I love that LED light. I mean, that's my favorite feature about this thing, probably because I just use it constantly at night when I check the time. Love that. The compass is nice. I really like having that. I use it all the time out in the woods. I like that, the compass setting lasts for that full 60 seconds, which is nice. The barometer is a huge bonus, and there's a setting on there which is nice that will warn you. It'll beep an alarm if the barometer is dropping really fast, so it'll kind of warn you of potential bad weather, incoming, which is really handy if you're out on the trail somewhere and you don't have internet access. I like it having the sunrise and sunset data. It's fairly accurate. I'm not sure where they're getting those numbers. I don't see a way to adjust it. I guess it's just programmed into the phone, or not the phone, the watch, excuse me. But, you know, that's a nice, it kind of gives you a ballpark figure. I found it to be, you know, within 10 or 15 minutes typically. The negatives with this, I mentioned it before, the temperature sensor is accurate, but not when it's on your wrist. So that is a negative. I wish they would find a way to get that temperature sensor to work even when it's on your wrist, to have it accurate temperature reading. It's also very large, so I have a 7-inch wrist, and this thing looks huge on me. So it's great. It's fine when I'm out camping, but you know, it makes it kind of hard to wear around town. It's just too big of a watch to wear around, in my opinion. I mean, you can definitely do it, but it just looks big. You have limited strap options with this. You know, usually you have to get the Casio strap, replacement straps. There are adapters, which I might get for this. I'm thinking about picking one up. Adapters that you pop in and you replace these, and it allows you to run a NATO strap, which that to me looks really cool. I want to get one of those, so I probably will, and I'll put them on this watch and do an update video. Another negative is the acrylic crystal scratches. I don't know if it'll pick it up right there. You can probably see there's a kind of a diagonal scratch across the acrylic there that I picked up. It was actually really deep. I polished it out with some Polywatch, but that is a negative. That acrylic crystal will scratch, but you can definitely polish it if you need to. These aren't quite as shock resistant as a G-Shock, so keep that in mind. I mean, these are more for outdoor use, as in camping and stuff, versus the really impact stuff, which that is what the G-Shocks are for. I've never had any problems with this, and I've, you know, banged it around, hit on rocks and stuff, so I think it's pretty dang durable. But, you know, Casio has this line separate from the G-Shocks for a reason. The G-Shocks are slightly more durable and more shock resistant. Also, I don't like that this one doesn't have atomic syncing. It is a quartz watch, so the timekeeping is very accurate, but some of the higher end watches, like the G-Shocks, they have atomic timekeeping or atomic time syncing, so you don't even have to ever worry about changing the time or setting the time. This one, I think it's advertised at about plus 10 seconds a month, and I mean, it's that good or better. So the timekeeping is good, but it's a negative that it doesn't have the syncing. But overall, this thing is really great. I mean, the price on these is pretty good for all the features you get. You can pick them up sometimes for around $100, sometimes less. I think I paid right at about $100 for mine. I've seen them on eBay for under $100. So if you see one at that price, I definitely recommend you picking one up. They're great watches, particularly if you do a lot of outdoor activities, hiking, camping. They're really handy. I used to carry different electronic devices for all these different features, so I love just having it condensed into one small watch, and I have all the features. I used to have like 4 or 5 different, you know, electronic devices for all this, so that's a great thing about these. But if you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below. I appreciate you watching your video, and you should definitely check these out if you haven't. Excellent outdoor watch, maybe the ultimate outdoor hiking watch right here, guys. Thanks for watching.